Hi, this is Chris Berry, and we're going to talk about the estate planning mistake of not funding your trust. If you like this information, please make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Christopher Berry is a leading estate attorney and advisor in the area of retirement and legacy planning. He has been featured in publications such as Forbes, Kiplinger's, Crane's Detroit, and more. He's the host of the weekly radio show and podcast, The Chris Berry Show. He's a national thought leader as it relates to retirement and legacy planning, and has authored the Amazon best-selling book, The Caregiver's Legal Guide.
So one of the big mistakes we see, and this happens, and I've seen it over the last 15 years of doing this, is that a client will have a trust, but they won't have the trust funded properly. And this is something that we take very seriously at our office, where we have a whole team helping our clients make sure that if they do have a trust set up, that it's funded properly. So two pieces to this. One is, what is a trust? Think of a trust kind of like a suitcase. While you're alive and well, you're holding on to it. God forbid something happens to you. You pass this suitcase, pass this trust on to your successor trustees, who then distribute the assets to the named beneficiaries. Now, if a trust is like a suitcase, we need to make sure there's stuff actually in the suitcase. That's what we mean when we're talking about funding a trust, is we're making sure that there's actually assets titled in the name of the trust as we pass that to the next generation or to whoever the successor trustee is. Because understand, if we don't have the trust funded, meaning we don't have the assets pointing to the trust, changing beneficiaries like your home, maybe we do a ladybird deed, changing beneficiary designations for life insurance, checking, savings, 401ks, IRAs. If we don't have these assets tied to the trust, then it's very easy for an asset to fall through the cracks and to end up going into probate. And that's what we want to try to avoid at the end of the day. So that's why we think it's so important that if you do have a trust-based estate plan, not only make sure the trust is funded properly when you set up the trust, and a lot aren't. A lot of times attorneys just give you a funding letter, which we call a CYA letter, or cover your butt letter, because they give this to families with the idea that if you don't fund the trust, you pass away. Now the kids get upset because assets go through probate. The attorney can point to that funding letter to say, hey, client, you're supposed to do this. We don't think that's the right way to approach things. That's why we work hand in hand with our clients to make sure everything is funded properly. So make sure when you set up the trust that it's funded properly, and then B, make sure as life goes on, you accumulate maybe more assets, you sell a house, you buy a cottage up north, you need to make sure the trust continues to be funded properly. So that's why estate planning, it's not a one and done type event. If you have a trust, you need to make sure that it's funded properly when you set up the trust. And that's why we have an annual program to meet with our clients to review their trust, review their estate plan to make sure that they have added any new accounts, opened up any new accounts, or bought a piece of property up north to make sure that it's funded in the trust. So it's important, to have a trust. But if you have a trust, it's even more important to make sure that trust is funded properly. Otherwise, that trust is not worth the paper it's printed on. So hopefully that's helpful. Understand if you do have a trust, make sure your trust is funded properly. If you have questions on this, feel free to reach out to our firm. This has been Chris Berry with Castle Wealth Group. Take care. Thank you.
Castle Wealth Group has clients across the nation and helps families plan, protect, and preserve what is important by creating a retirement and legacy blueprint.